Hey everyone, welcome to the guide. Today we'll be talking about Ragefire Chasm boosts from the Mage perspective, and we'll also be covering kind of some general optimizations you can make throughout your leveling path from 1 to 60. So excited to kind of kick this series off. This will be really the first video in a series of guides, um, deep dives on Mage boosting, and really get into kind of the nitty gritty of each of the individual boosts throughout the leveling journey, and hopefully help some folks who are kind of struggling with some individual elements of that. This is all going to be specific to the new anniversary servers, so current phasing of gear and things like that. You shouldn't have any issues. Um, if you're playing on Era as well, it'll actually be easier on Era, so any of this stuff will work for that as well. Um, General format for the videos, we'll start off by kind of talking through optimal leveling path. Then we'll get into talents, gear, and consumables, and then we'll talk through the strategies for each of the dungeons. So without further ado, let's hop into the optimal leveling paths. So here in handy dandy PowerPoint, have put together a quick flow chart for us to look through. Really ideally, you're going to want to get to level 8 before you start boosting in instances. You can't get into Ragefire prior to level 8. This is Horde specific, obviously, as the title implies, but Ragefire in kind of that 8 to 14 range can move to Shadowfang until level 20, and then level 20 you can head out to Scarlet Monastery. Scarlet Monastery is great until your mid 30s, and then Moradon starts to get a little better. Um, Moradon will last you all the way up until 52 if you're having trouble finding Strat or Lubers boosts, and then you're going to want to finish out your journey in either Strat or Lower Blackrock. Sunken Temple is also an option, but frankly, it's a little harder to find those boosts and it's a little worse. Um, so this is the path I'd recommend. I've also tagged sort of minimal recommended leveling, like to enter the dungeons. You can get into some of these a little sooner. Like Strat, you can get in as early as 37, I think. But for the most part, I've kind of tagged like, hey, this is really the minimum viable level for you to go to these next places. Maybe you have a friend who's going to help you with Mardon and you want to leave Scarlet Monastery a little early or something like that. Completely fine. But this is the optimal path if you're looking to just get to level 60 as fast as possible and you're planning on, sort of AFK, playing on another account, or even boosting yourself. I would do something like this. One thing I will highlight is there's a bit of a switch in kind of ideal number of players that you want in the group. For the first group here, all the way really through Scarlet Monastery, it's ideal to have 5 players because you pull that average level down. So you want 5 players around the same level. Ragefire, for example, starting with 4 players at level 8 and you're one level 60, that would be an ideal composition for Ragefire as you go through. For Shadowfang, same, having everybody around level 14. Um, and then your booster at 60. That starts to switch towards the end of Scarlet Monastery, where having really only 4 people in the party, or even 3 people in the party, all the way down to 1 person in the party, as you sort of step from Scarlet Monastery down to Strat and Lubers. So you'll start to see that, if you're just boosting friends for experience, having like a party of 3 or 4 in Mardon's actually better than having a full party of 5 in terms of the experience gained. And then for Strat and Lower Blackrock, the fewer the better. So with that being said, let's hop straight into the actual guide for Ragefire. Okay, so let's talk a little bit about your talent setups. You're thinking about the Ragefire boost. I'll say talents are pretty lenient for this one. Only a couple things really matter. The first is magic absorption. This is going to be pretty fundamental to any of your boosts. So this is what my arcane tree looks like, and this is pretty standard for what I would run for Mara as well. So this is a nice kind of all-purpose build for when you're not going to run Shatter. On the Frost side, similar situation here. Not a ton of the stuff is mandatory, um, and you have some flexibility in kind of how you want to build some of this. I would say these 3 are mandatory, right? This is a pretty standard Frost AoE build. So these 3 are mandatory, and really kind of like this area here is mandatory. and then you're obviously going to want to take Ice Block, you're going to want to take Ice Barrier. But super easy if you want to just plug and play this exact build. I'll have a link to the Blizzard and the Shatter um, examples down below. And you know this works. This works great for pretty much any of the instances that you're going to be boosting. So super easy. No gear requirements either for Ragefire. This is a pretty straightforward one. As long as you're kind of level 45 and above, you can do this pretty easily. So you can see my gear is some Eagle stuff that I've kind of picked up along the way. That is a ring from Uldaman. That's a ring from Shadowfang Keep quest, and just really not a lot of optimized gear or anything. So absolutely no gear requirements. Same for consumables. Just make your mana gem, make some food and water, put your buffs up, and you're really kind of good to just step straight into this. So let's talk a little bit about the path here for Ragefire. It's in general, I would say the way I would describe sort of what you want to be shooting for is you want to pull the mobs as quickly as possible while doing as little damage to the mobs as possible. And ultimately, you want to get through the dungeon um, in as little time as possible. You're always going to hit your lockout, so don't worry about that. But generally speaking, you don't want to be like slamming max rank arcane explosion. You're just going to kill these mobs throughout the whole dungeon. So the idea is we want to run through the whole dungeon, pull all the mobs that we can, and get back to kill everything right here. And we want to do that as little time as possible while doing as little damage to the mobs as possible. A great way to do that is to use um, counterspell to tag the mobs. Use Frost Nova to tag the mobs, buy yourself a little space, and kind of limit any max rank spells like a max rank Arcane Explosion, max rank Fire Blast. You don't want to use any of that stuff, it's going to do too much damage. For anyone who doesn't know, there's a mechanic in Classic WoW. Let's say this mob has 1000 HP and it's worth 100 experience. If I were to do 10% of its life and then not hit it again for another minute, 45 seconds to a minute, it's now going to recalibrate the XP it gives, and it's only going to be worth 90 XP. And so you don't want to do a ton of damage to the mobs because you run the risk of ultimately nerfing XP. Is a good way to circumvent that is to use an entry-level wand or dagger to tag the mobs as you go through, but you can also just body pull. Body pulling is super easy as well. So let's hop right into it. I'll throw up a couple buffs. It really doesn't matter. Just kind of start close to full mana. And I'm gonna start with just a rank 1 Arcane Explosion here. Rank 1 Arcane Explosion there. I will try to body pull as much as I can. I'll run through, I'll tag. Sometimes if I'm on my way out, I'll just hit Arcane Explosion, so I don't miss them. And here is where you first really kind of start doing something. You jump up onto this ledge. It's pretty easy. You can also kill this pack chasing you if that makes it easier. We're going to jump, counterspell that mob, and then we're going to wand this mob. And what happens is these mobs are going to do a lot of legwork for us. One's going to run down this path pulling everything. The other's going to run down this path pulling everything. So it saves us a lot of time not having to run down both paths, and we should get the majority of those mobs um, just from the social aggro. There definitely are times where it misses a few of them, and that's no big deal. Generally speaking, you're going to be hitting kind of that 135 to 140 mob count each time. So you don't really have to worry too much about, min-maxing those 2 to 3 mobs that you might miss. And so you'll see me utilizing body pulls a lot here. I'm just sort of running right over top of the mobs, making sure I get aggro. I have my nameplate set up in a way that you can tell really clearly when they aggro, right? It goes from that red, I missed that one, I'll throw an Arcane Explosion. And you'll come back through here too, so you don't have to worry too much about, grabbing every single one of these. Here, I like to go to the right, so I'll always counterspell that guy, I'll rank 1 Fire Blast that guy, and then I'll sort of run right through the middle here. My blink is usually coming back up here, so I'll hit an Arcane Explosion, see if I can missed him, so I went ahead and hit another Arcane Explosion. Then I blinked, put up my shield, do another Arcane Explosion here, and then I'll just do a Frost Nova, buy myself a little bit of breathing room. You can always do like a jump, rank 1 Cone of Cold too, if you feel like the mobs are getting right on top of you, but usually no big deal. Going through here, still body pulling, still body pulling. I'm jumping here. I'm going to wait just a second on that Nova. Jump, Nova everything. When you get to this point, you want to have your blink back up when you get to the end of this pathway, and I'll show you why. Not a huge deal if it doesn't. It's not like you're going to die or anything, but it is nice to have it because you can take quite a bit of fall damage here. So just jumping, having your blink up, being able to go straight into your blink is a pretty good way to just keep your character nice and healthy, especially if you're doing this at a lower level. If you're not level 60, I would certainly recommend doing something like that. So as you can see, I'm really just sort of sticking to the script, right? I mean, I'm coming through the dungeon. I am pulling all of these mobs. Went ahead and grabbed the boss there. And then when you get to these two rock guys, you're going to hop off the edge right here, turn, and put your cursor right on the corner, throw down a rank 1 Blizzard. This is a concept you'll see a lot throughout sort of the boosting guides, but it really just gives you the opportunity to clump the mobs. Now there's an invisible wall here keeping you from getting to X, so you kind of have to be finicky with the cursor if you want to pull him, but I usually try to grab him on my way through with a counter spell. And then I swing this turn pretty wide, and I'll show you what happens there. Again, this is just going to cause the mobs to fold back in on themselves and clump up a little better. This is very straightforward. Even if you don't do any of these things, the pull will still be fine. This is really easy, but it's a good, I view Ragefire as a opportunity to really kind of practice some of this stuff because those concepts do get really important later on with stuff like Maradon, stuff like Scarlet Monastery. So like mob pathing, mob grouping, line of sight, being able to sort of jump, 180 Cone of Cold, things like that. All that stuff is something, practice in here because it gets a lot harder and it becomes much more important as you get into some of the more difficult content. So here you can see some of these guys. Looks like they reset. That's no big deal. Grab them on the way back. Same thing here. I'm just going to do some body pulls. Body pulls. Tag those guys. Tag those guys. Tag those guys. And then here, I went ahead and threw down a Nova there because I was kind of body pulling some folks. But really, you can just Blizzard this. You can Cone of Cold. And then you can just kite. If you do get stunned, you can blink out of it, you can ice block. And this is a very chill kill, right? You can see that even getting stunned a few times, even half the mobs still being over there, the kill's no problem. These guys will be very low HP because they just kind of die naturally from you gathering up the other mobs. So you'll always usually have a Void Walker. But that's really it. The kill phase, you can either do just a standard kind of stand back here and Blizzard the mobs, 3-4 ticks, move a little, Blizzard again. You can really YOLO the kill phase. It's honestly pretty chill. The only thing you have to worry about is if you get stunned, you might need to ice block. So the Blizzard is usually safer, so you don't get caught in that stun loop. Let's talk a little bit about sort of how long this should take, what it should look like. You can see my mob count. If I go here, mob count was 140 on the last one, 138 on this one. Taking about 10 minutes per reset, which is, I would say, pretty average for a full reset. The run itself is taking closer to like 6 minutes. It's just this time in between that makes those resets look like 8 to 10 minutes. So, you get through the run in about 6 minutes. They'll kind of, folks will loot. They can go to this vendor right here. Um, and it takes a little bit more time to sort of get in and out, and really like get things reset. But ultimately, that's really all there is to it. Your level ranges that are going to work for this. I like to shoot for 8 to 16, and you're gonna want your folks that are in here to be close to the same level. Um, you don't want like one level 8 and three level 16s. That's gonna punish the level 8 player. Um, and so that's really it for the video. I'll link a few things down below, talent build, um, my channels and things like that. So excited to bring this series to you guys. I'm going to go through the full 1 to 60 journey and what that looks like. Next video will be about um, Shadowfang Keep, and we'll be going over a 3-pull video for Shadowfang Keep, and then we'll get into some of the meatier stuff with Scarlet Monastery and Mordon. But thanks so much for watching. Throw a subscribe if you want to follow along for the rest of the leveling journey, and hope to see you guys in the next video.